hello, everybody. I'm going to make this point. Where I don't have seasons like it's summer, fall, winter, spring. It's more like it looks warm outside, it looks hot outside, it looks cool outside, it looks cold. This job is that's a lot of work to do. You never have time to go enjoy life.
We're so dedicated, right?
No, we all are. Anyway, hey, welcome everybody to the Moor Insights Strategy Data Center Podcast. We have the three smartest folks on the planet. Paul Smith-Goodson, Mr. AI, Mr. Quantum, Mr. Everything. Will Townsend, Mr. Security, Mr. Networking. And Matt Kimball, I don't do a whole lot of anything. So anyway, it is great to be with you all. We're here to talk all things data center. And before we jump into some fun topics, let me just throw out our disclaimers, our legal disclaimers. I cannot talk super fast, so I'm not going to try and play a lawyer. But whatever we say is for entertainment purposes and for information exchange. It is not for advisory or I shouldn't say it's not for financial advisory or investment purposes. If you choose to take what we say and go invest based on it, you need to have your head examined, especially with stuff I say. So we are here to talk all things data center. We are on episode 47, another fine prime number. And we're going to talk Palo Alto and its acquisitions of CyberArk, FTQC, I already know who that is, Dell, Intel, Microsoft, AI in the consulting game. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Boys, you ready to hit the ground running?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, all right. Well, Paul, you guys are both ready to go, huh? We're going to start with Will. We're going to talk some Palo Alto and CyberArk. What the heck is going on there, Will?
Man, big news. So for about a week, there was the rumor circulating that Palo Alto Networks might acquire SentinelOne. That didn't come to fruition, but just yesterday, late breaking news, this is a mega acquisition for Palo Alto Networks from a couple of perspectives, Matt. One, the deal value. So this is a $25 billion transaction.
Wow.
It's huge, right? If you look at what Cisco and Splunk did, 28 billion. So this is really, really big. Number one. Number two, it's also interesting because just a few weeks ago, Palo Alto Networks had announced a partnership with Okta. Okta is certainly a leader in identity access management, but with this news this week around Palo's acquisition of CyberArk, this feels like the last void in the company's sort of platform approach with identity. So CyberArk is got a very, very deep, very, very broad expanse within identity access management, PAM, and that sort of thing. And I'm going to have an opportunity to speak with executives in the next coming days and write a Forbes article that's going to provide some further insights. But so at a very high level, Palo Alto Networks has been executing against its platform strategy. There's a number of advantages in doing that. It simplifies the overall deployment and management of cybersecurity. And at the same time, it helps reduce the tool sprawl. I think I've spoken about this on numerous podcasts that the number of cybersecurity tools that enterprises manage is huge, right? I mean, 25, 50, 75, 100 plus, depending on the size of the company. But with this acquisition, their intent to acquire the company, it's going to have to go through some approvals because both companies are public. But this is really big for Palo Alto Networks, and it basically completes their platform. So, and I know, Matt, you and I were sort of sidebarring on this. You're familiar with CyberArk. What do you think about this deal? It looks really good from my perspective.
What I like about CyberArk is they have depth and they have maturity. So they've been around for a while. And when it comes to identity access management, privileged access management, kind of app-to-app kind of access levels, enabling, disabling. To me, I'm not a security guy, so I look at this from the outside. But from everything I've seen from the outside, they're like the gold standard for that kind of privileged access management.
Yeah.
Take that and you take Palo Alto, and it's 1 + 1 = 3 from my perspective. The other thing to what you talk about is kind of the completeness of a platform that can do considerably more across the enterprise. So to what you're saying, you're reducing the amount of sprawl and the number of consoles I have to go in to protect everything from the API level up to kind of access, on the network. I love the acquisition or the intent to acquire. I think it's fantastic. I was actually, like you, I was a little bit surprised because I thought CyberArk was one of those companies was just going to kind of be on its own as a standalone
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, great acquisition.
I think, and I'll just make a final point, and I'd love to get Paul's, input if he has any. But, from my perspective, one of the biggest struggles, and I wrote about this in a Forbes article after I attended RSA conference, but when you sort of look at agentic AI and what's going to be required from a permissioning for super agents and task agents and that sort of thing, from my perspective, this is something that Palo Alto Networks had sort of kind of announced a preview on what they're calling Agentix, TIX. And so I'll be spending more time with the leadership there. So I don't want to kind of speak without having all the facts, but I do believe this could potentially, from a roadmap perspective and a time to market perspective, compress the effort that's going to be required for Palo to deliver on its promise of agent permissioning and orchestration and access management. Because to your point, CyberArk is so mature, they're so well established. And what'll also be interesting, and what I want to talk to executives about, is like what is the overlap with respect to customers, right? One of the things, Matt, you and I know because we spent time with Antonio on the team on prior to the HPE Juniper close, and Patrick did as well. But one of the things that Antonio and Rami spoke to was, there was some overlap on the roadmap, but from a customer standpoint, there was very little overlap. So there was sort of a net effect and an opportunity to sort of cross sell. So it'll be, I'm going to dig into that with executives as well. Again, a gratuitous plug for a future Forbes article. I'm hoping I'll be able to get that out by the end of next week. But I think this is solid. Paul, do you have anything to add?
No, just it's so huge. Integration and execution is going to be complex, and merging products and culture, and even retaining people. I mean, so there's still going to be a lot of issues to deal with.
Yeah, no, it's never easy, right? And when I was in corporate America, I went through a couple of change of control events, including when HP acquired Compact. So the devil will be in the details, and they will have to flawlessly execute, and as quickly as they can do that, I think is going to be in their best interest once this deal is approved. So
well, I love the agentic angle. It's I'd say security wormhole kind of presenting itself, and the standards around MCP servers are they're there, but there's not as much confidence from a security perspective. So I think they position themselves well. So fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, good stuff. I know this isn't my headline because I would never curse in my headlines. What the heck?
Tell us, Paul.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
You terrible, terrible person, you. What's going on with this, Paul?
That's been tossed around so much now. I mean, I think everybody knows that fault-tolerant quantum computing, what that is, and how important it is. It's actually a really big deal in terms of being able to scale quantum systems. A fault-tolerant system can scale in size and complexity and still maintain its accuracy. It provides precision that we didn't have otherwise, and then quantum advantage becomes a real thing with fault tolerance. Move past all the theoretical superiority stuff that we used to talk about to practical advantage in the application. So it's going to be a wonderful thing when somebody rolls this out. And IBM is right now scheduled for 2029 to roll out their fault tolerant machine. And there's going to be concrete outcomes that we can expect once we hit that threshold. It's a computing upgrade. I mean, it's really a total transformation of what we're doing today with quantum. I think you guys know we talked about that IBM has got something scheduled for 2029,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2030. It's going to be a big machine, and it's critical. Fault tolerance is really critical to advancing the technology. I mean, there's just a certain point we couldn't go past. We're going to be move past it now. So it moves us away from right now we've got really fragile qubits that can't tolerate virtually any noise or any type of disturbance or anything like that. So we're moving away from physical qubits to logical qubits, and they can maintain an uninterrupted calculation for really complex and lengthy tasks. So we can move into a lot bigger problems and more lengthy computations. We'll be able to do a lot of things. And one thing I'm looking forward to is that we'll be able to simulate molecules and at really a high quantum level, and be able to understand the behavior of what's going on inside the molecules and how they're interacting. We couldn't do that before because it just took too many calculations to get in and dig deep into it. So that means that we're going to probably end up with a lot of new drugs, I suspect, and there'll be a lot of candidates and stuff that come out of the experiments that need to be done. So there's we talked about working on a catalyst for ammonia, how difficult that's going to be, and that's going to definitely take fault-tolerant quantum computing, and it'll have a major impact on the CO2 emissions that we've got. Mm-hmm. And of course, everybody knows about Shor's algorithm, and a fault-tolerant quantum computer, once it gets to be big enough, we'll be able to break that RSA encryption, which we're getting ready for now. I mean, we're doing all the preparation work to when that happens. But that surely is going to happen. So we'll be able to do. I mean, a lot of things we'll be able to do optimization, and it'll have an impact on AI. We'll be able to model financial markets, optimize portfolios, and that type of thing. So a lot of big calculations and problems that we'll be able to tackle, and it's going to bring about a lot of advances in quantum and just the overall technology, and it'll be kind of like getting AI for the first time. There's things that we can do that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise without fault tolerance. So kind of a snapshot.
Paul, just in kind of in layman's terms and in a succinct way, so people can kind of like really get it. How does this change the enterprise data center landscape? I mean, do classical computers eventually go away in favor of quantum computers?
I think there'll always be some place for classical computers to do some of the grunt work and that type of thing. Basically we're moving from physical qubits to logical qubits, and that means that it's going to take a number of physical qubits to make up a logical qubit, and we're getting what's important in that is the overhead. How many physical qubits does it take to make a logical qubit? At one point I think it was like 1,000, and now we're down to where it's either a couple of hundred or a couple of physical qubits can make a logical qubit. It looks like so. We're going to be So some of the overhead's going to come down, power
You
overhead.
you veered off the layman's terms, but that's all right.
Sorry.
I mean, let me ask you this question, Paul. So with going back to your example with the molecular sort of modeling and that sort of thing, I mean, as you were kind of speaking through that, it reminded me, and I'm going to date myself, and I think we all watched the $6 Million Man with Lee Majors. And towards the end of that series, he meets Bigfoot, and Bigfoot has this blue vial, and it's the cure for cancer. I mean, could fault-tolerant quantum computing get us finding Bigfoot, number one, but more importantly, potentially finding cures for cancer? It sounds like it could.
They between AI and quantum, I think it's going to, that those type of things I think are going to be more on the AI side. But when you start looking at material and tearing it apart and looking down at the molecular atomic level of material, that's where the quantum is going to come into play.
Okay.
So
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are so far out in front of the what's the word I'm looking for? You are so far out in front of the kind of the hype curve around quantum. I don't think the market can fully they're still trying to digest AI.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think people really get how disruptive quantum is going to be to enterprise computing. It is, to me, it makes AI just look like a, iterative kind of step technology, if you will.
There's always going to be a place for classical computing.
Sure.
I mean, that won't go away, but it'll. I mean, it's a new era of computing when we get fault tolerance.
Yeah. Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. All right, moving on to the next, Dell and sustainability. So
now it's pretty hard for you to follow that up. You always follow Paul. It seems like
you just watch.
Okay.
I'm going to wow them with. I'm going to throw quantum in there a few times and talk about qubits in my fragile qubit ego.
And that's not Q-Bert, the video game that I played as a kid.
Or Q-tips.
Or Q-tips.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. You guys remember talking to companies back in 2022, and every conversation you had with IT was about sustainability and kind of, hitting net zero kind of emissions and carbon neutrality, right? I mean, that was every conversation kind of focused around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then this thing called Chat GPT comes along, and you talk to those very same people, and they're like, "What's sustainability? We just need more power, right?
Yeah.
To get more GPUs training our data." And even as they talk about liquid cooling and kind of alternative methods, it's not the conversations really don't focus around how to use liquid cooling to drive down carbon footprints, which they were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
It's how to use liquid cooling to reduce your power footprint so you can add more servers with more GPUs. And it feels like, and that's not a criticism, it really isn't. It's kind of the reality of where we are in enterprise IT. The business says we need to be bigger, faster, better, and more efficient, and AI is the way we get there. So, by hell or high water, you've got to find a way to be more responsive, and generative and agentic AI is the way to get there. So Dell's done something really cool. They're like, you know what, we get it. We're going to do this thing. It's called Concept Astro, which immediately makes me think of the Jetsons and the pet dog that they had. And I cannot get that out of my head. That has to be a logo or something. Concept Astro. Concept Astro is it kind of like, if you think about IT operations, like, provisioning, deploying, managing workloads and servers over here, sorry. And then over here you have data center management platforms like Siemens or Schneider or Emerson that kind of look at power coming into the building and the transformation of, high voltage to medium voltage to low voltage and then distribution down into the racks. There's a space in between that has been unaddressed that, kind of needs to look at kind of rack level down, where my workloads are running, how much power they're consuming, and then needs to look up where's the best available power, where's the cheapest available power, where's the cleanest available power, both from a kind of, cleaning out my sine waves to is this renewable or is it not, right? There are those kind of all these different angles you need to look at. So Concept Astro is Dell's answer to that in part. So it kind of creates digital twins of your data center, all your racks, all your servers. It takes information from the grid, where power is coming from, what the cost is on those different grids, how clean that power is. And it looks at your workload requirements, and it can do one of a few things. It can schedule future workloads to go, to the right place based on your requirements, cleanliness, cost, efficiency, absolute raw performance, or it can make recommendations to you based on what it's seeing to help kind of bridge that gap. So really the goal is to help as companies, organizations get into the throes of AI and start to realize the power challenges they have and how that presses up against all of these sustainability goals. Concept Astro is designed to help you kind of navigate that more closely. They say it's agentic, and I'm sure it is because, you can't say it if it's not true. I haven't understood fully the agentic element of this, but it certainly uses elements of their AI ops. It uses elements of their open management tool. But what I'm really looking for, so really great solution, what I'm really looking for is a partnership between Dell and say Siemens or Dell and Schneider, where you see this tight integration of data center management plus what they're doing with Concept Astro to give that full and open manage, to give that full end-to-end from a single console kind of management platform. Because the stuff Concept Astro doesn't do that a Siemens will do for you is it looks at things like, what are the oxygen levels in my data center, right? For fire hazards, right? If it's too rich, then sparks can get, what are my nitrogen levels? What are my other fire hazards and physical security challenges, right? Tying all that together in one console is kind of nirvana and where folks want to go. I think Concept Astro can be the bridge that brings all this together. Man, that was succinct for me.
Yeah, that was awesome, Matt. So is this a proof of concept at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. They have a customer using it. Scripps Institute in San Diego is using it for their HPC workload placement for all the undersea kind of research they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's very limited right now. This will eventually roll into a more formalized, go from concept to maybe more of a project, and then from a project into a product. So it's very, very early stages. But this to me is light years ahead of kind of where the rest of the market is from a kind of data center management perspective.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Like I spent a lot of time with NTT, and I may have mentioned this on a prior podcast, but I was surprised to learn at an event in San Francisco this spring that, they've done the sizing and they consider themselves one of the third or fourth largest, sort of data center compute solution providers in the world. And they are working with companies like Siemens and I'm thinking like another Schneider as well. So, this gets me thinking like I need to go back to my NTT contacts and see if they're doing something that might be similar. But I love the concept. I think it's a huge concern, right? Especially with AI workloads around, being responsible. And, a journalist inbounded into me recently around some concerns around a community where AWS was going to deploy very large AI data center, and they actually pulled the plug on it because the people in the community were uninformed in general on sustainability and what it meant to water cool this particular data center, had it gone forward. And, they were concerned about the local water supply and that sort of thing. And clearly they didn't understand the recirculation systems and the liquid cooling systems that are not necessarily just water, because Matt, you're the expert here, but there are other fluids that are used, to cool compute infrastructure. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. Everyone's focused on this. We love what, modern AI is going to potentially do to drive productivity gains and that sort of thing. But we don't want that to happen at the expense of sustainable, right? Operations. So.
Yeah. Fun play. It's a fun play.
Do they have a buzzword for that concept?
Astro.
Just Astro.
So, they haven't yet, Paul. I think this is such a new and evolving space. There's data center management systems, DCMS. There's Siemens calls their integrated data center management system, or X building. But this kind of what they're doing, how they label this, what they call it, I haven't heard anything yet. Maybe sustainability engineering. But I can tell you, as an IT person, an ex-IT person, when I was in IT, I never knew kind of the power that was coming in. I never knew the power that I was consuming. I never knew the cost of that power. I didn't know anything. I couldn't tell you what grids they were coming off of. I couldn't tell you kind of any of that. And over the last, 5 to 10 years, power consumption has become more and more under the purview of IT as well, not just an operations or facilities team. Connecting all this together, it's kind of long overdue. And this is without a doubt the cleanest and the clearest vision I've seen from one of the infrastructure providers. So good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway,
how closely tied to this, to like e-waste and circular economy and all that?
It can be very tied into it. If you think about kind of like, the secure recycling and kind of that element of the circular economy, it can be very tied into it, because, this is where I'm not sure Concept Astro does it. I know that data center management systems do it, where they'll tag your assets, and you can track the life and better plan your secure recycling, and kind of integrate with the vendor platforms themselves that have kind of applications on the back end for that. But it's something that if I were Dell, I would certainly build it. I mean, it's my product, right? So I'd certainly build that kind of asset management, life cycle management. I don't mean from a provisioning perspective. I mean from a kind of end of life perspective, how you manage it. I would absolutely build that in as kind of a, kind of cradle to grave management.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. Good stuff. Anyway, I could talk about this all day, but I'm not going to, because I'm trying to be good. We're moving on to Intel and something to do with networking and discussion.
Yeah, so there have been rumors sort of circulating on, what Intel's going to do. I mean, discussion around Foundry, right? I mean, their earnings, just were released, and so this isn't like an official sort of news flash, but there's been a lot of discussion in the press. And actually, I had Diana Guvertz, reach out to me about this very subject, and I had spoken with the Intel team as well. But this makes sense to me. So, obviously, Lip-Bu-Tan is very focused on riding the ship there, doubling down on those areas that are going to bring, the most revenue, the most, profit to the company. And so the decision has been made to spin off the networking business unit. Now, I think this is smart, because it's allowing Intel to focus on its core business, right? Get that in order. And honestly, their networking business hasn't been a huge contributor. to their top line revenue or their profitability. So, and this is not a new thing for Intel. If you look at what they did with Altera, they've done some spinoffs in the past. And so I think this is so smart because what it does is, again, allows them to focus on what's really, really important.
Yeah.
In spinning off the networking business, they're going to seek additional investors as well. And so from my perspective, that has the potential to fortify that portfolio. So this will include what they call their IPU, the Intel, PU, or it's basically it's a traditional DPU, much like what NVIDIA delivers with Bluefield and Marvell delivers as well. And obviously they have an Ethernet portfolio too. They did sell their mobility, networking business to Apple. Apple's been struggling with that for 5 or 6 years, and they finally have. If you talk to my partner and 5G partner in Karai Manchal, basically Apple has delivered its first modem based on those designs and those architectures. But anyway, at a very high level, I think this is a good thing for Intel. Hopefully, they find some additional investors. They can fortify it. I mean, Diana asked me, it's like, what does this do to improve their competitiveness overall? I don't think it's gonna raise the C level for them to compete, say, with a Broadcom or with an NVIDIA. But I think certainly it's a great move on their part. So I think it's pretty, from my perspective, pretty cut and dry. But any thoughts, Matt?
So if you look at their last earnings, their client revenue went up, but they made less money than they did last year at this time, last quarter. Yeah. Their server revenue went up. Their margins went up a little bit, but they're still well below where they should be. They're trying to get down to 75,000 employees. And they're trying to, what you said, kind of shed everything off except for their core competency, which is really kind of, CPU design. Yeah. I applaud what they're doing, and I hate to see these layoffs happening, but it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
They've kind of straightened out their CPU roadmap. Although some would disagree. I think their Xeon 6 is a very good part. They're very exposed though in the AI space, and so
big time.
Train your focus. Don't focus on, and I don't mean this the way it's going to come out. Don't focus on networking. Don't focus on these adjacencies. Focus on where the money is, and focus on where the heat is. Right. Yeah. And it's compute. It's vector compute. It's matrix compute. Right. So it's CPUs and it's GPUs, and they really have to get super focused, because right now they're super exposed long term from a AI perspective.
I mean, AMD, like it's just interesting because Matt, and Paul too, we've all been in the industry for 3+ decades, and it was always Intel, and AMD would come up and they would shift down, and it was always this. And boy, now with what Lisa has done there, and you look at, we talk about their GPU portfolio and what they're doing there. They've really leapfrogged Intel, right? Sort of, it's been a dramatic shift in those two companies.
They've got any outside investors yet?
No details yet, Paul, on that. So to be determined. So, and this is sort of, it's sort of, I've got some inside baseball here, sort of the unofficial announcement. I mean, there's nothing formal from my perspective that Intel is going to, put out in a press release or anything like that, which makes me believe that it's still sort of a work in progress, but we may see something more formalized, sometime down the road.
There's no guarantee this is going to work either. So.
Well, yeah, that's right. So
the reality is their biggest cost is the foundries. I mean, I think they burned through $4 billion this quarter.
Yeah.
That's a $4 billion loss this quarter.
Huge.
In the foundry, and it's not unique to this quarter. They lost, I think, $3.8 billion last quarter. It's multiple billions of dollars they're burning through, and I am so glad I'm not in a position where I have to make these decisions, but it's very difficult. There's a lot of upside and potential, But for the last year, I think they've lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 billion on that foundry business. And, are you going to get there? I know Apple's made some comments around committing, NVIDIA's made some comments around committing to using their foundries. It's always been a competitive differentiator, but it's a huge cost factor. And that money you're pouring into those foundries, you could be pouring into a GPU design, something they've been trying to do for over a decade and have not been able to deliver. So, yeah.
Best of luck to Intel. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, fun discussion. All right. 4D without glasses. I know who this belongs to. One person that could come up. But what the hell are we talking about here, Paul? You're scaring me again.
Yeah, this is another quantum device. It's one thing I have to say this for Microsoft. They're, comparing Microsoft to Dell. I mean, Dell does not do anything with quantum, basically, except try and integrate it with other products, other people's products. But Microsoft is doing a lot of really neat research, and they're developing. I mean, they're still working on topological and a bunch of other things in quantum. They're doing really good things with other quantum companies like Atom Computing, putting out some really good products, or what will become good products at some point in the future. I mean, they started their quantum research back in 2005, I think. So they've been in for a long time. They're actively involved in a lot of DARPA projects and other projects with other companies, like I said. So I think Microsoft is going to do really well when it comes to quantum when they got things. We started getting fault tolerant computing and stuff like that. So. Yeah. But anyway, right now, I mean, they're looking at this 4-dimension source code, and it's kind of a novel approach to quantum hardware, and it's going to shift the paradigms a little bit. They're focusing on integration and hybrid systems and partnerships and stuff like that. But they've been working, like I said, they've been working with Atom Computing, because Atom Computing is a neutral atom modality, and it's got high fidelities. It's got all of the qubits can connect to each other, so they've got all-to-all connectivity, and they've got fairly long coherence times with neutral atom qubits. So they're a good partner for Microsoft, and they're doing some neat things in terms of creating logical qubits. They've got what they're working on right now is a 4-dimensional geometric code. It's different from basically anything. It's a new family. It's got a 4-dimensional code in there, and it uses mathematics and a geometric framework that operates basically in four dimensions. I don't know, you've probably heard of the Tesseract, that 3D shadow of a 4-dimensional cube. It's kind of like that version. You can think of it like as a Tesseract. It's a higher dimensional type of connectivity and error correcting codes. And the way it works is it's got like geometric twists and rotations, and by rotating this 4-dimensional geometry, you can start to optimize the codes, and you get a couple of different advantages with this new code that they've developed. I mean, it's really different than what's on the market right now. Right now, we've got the old 2D codes, the surface codes for error correction, and then we're working on the logical qubits. And now they've come up with this 4-dimensional geometry. One advantage is it doesn't take very many physical qubits to create a logical qubit, and that makes it more efficient and scalable. And it's pretty fast for error correction. It's got a single shot error correction. So it doesn't, once the error it detects the error and corrects it basically in one cycle. So you don't have to identify it and then take it someplace else and then try and work on it, try and improve it. So, so anyway, it's a clever way of looking at error codes, and it's kind of once they get it worked out, it should reduce the overhead. You won't have as many physical qubits to deal with as you do right now. So the only drawback is that right now you can't use it on all modalities. I mean, the atom computing, the neutral atom modality has everything that it needs to work in this environment. So we're probably going to see it isolated to those type of quantum. But it's
Paul,
new, it's interesting, and it's clever. So
Paul, does that leverage, or is that something that gets contributed back into a community and becomes part of quantum?
yeah,
general,
I think it will. I think it will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But it's new, it's clever, and it's got a lot of advantages. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with it going forward. So
I can tell you, Paul, the Tesseract, like I recall that from either a DC comic book movie or a Marvel comic book movie.
it could be
Struggling to figure out which one it was, but that's about my basic knowledge of the Tesseract.
It's a real mathematical concept. So
well, you heard it here, listeners and viewers first.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is gonna, this worked out. It's gonna enable us to go from noisy, small scale quantum computers to big old honkers with fault tolerance. So
yeah,
it's crazy. I love it, man. This is science fiction for sure. Science fiction.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on and close out. I'm going to be very quick on this last one for the sake of time, and for the sake of time. So AI reinvigorates the consulting game. So what am I trying to say here? So anybody who's worked in enterprise IT has worked with Accenture or DXC or IBM, so on and so forth. Gartner Group, I think we can say that publicly, that name publicly. It's like Voldemort.
I think so.
Or the analyst firm that shall not be named released their latest Magic Quadrant on consulting firms. And IBM Consulting, used to be Global Services, was up and to the right and very highly ranked. And Muhammad Ali, who runs IBM Consulting, posted it. I was like, that's fantastic. But it got me thinking a little bit more about kind of consulting in general. I was looking across the names, and you saw some of the familiars, the Accentures, the DXCs, the PwC, so on and so forth. I was surprised by the placement of some and not of others. Tata was not placed as highly as I thought they would be. But it got me thinking, there's a lot of activity that happens between a IT consulting firm and an enterprise IT organization. And this is for my enterprise IT friends, not necessarily for vendors. And folks in companies like Dell have their own consulting services that work often in times with these consulting companies. There are two certainties in AI. There is NVIDIA is going to be used to some degree on the back end. And then I got to get this right. And then there's a partner is going to lead the engagement, and the partner being Accenture, DXC, IBM, so forth, right? Everything else is noise. I mean, it's kind of like a square wave on an O-scope, right? NVIDIA and consulting partners are 5 volts, and everything else is 0 volts. And that's all going to kind of fought over in time. Here's my point. you as IT folks have been working with your partners for some time. Accenture has a footprint in every enterprise, so on and so forth. You know what they can do. You know what they can't do. You're going to get You're going to get analysts like me and others that are telling you this analyst firm or this consulting firm is great for AI. This consulting firm is not great for AI. There are two things about AI you have to remember when you're partnering. You need someone who understands your environment very well and your data estate very well, and you need someone who understands AI very well. And by the way, when you're partnering with them, they're usually subcontracting out to smaller firms that do the actual work for them. Go with what you know. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Will. Don't listen to Paul. Don't listen to analysts at other companies when they tell you that this consulting firm is better than this consulting firm.
Right.
The reality is, you as an enterprise IT organization know the consulting game better than we do. You know what your interactions have been like. They're very personal, in many ways, and go with what you know, and go with those that know you, and know your operations better than others. Because getting caught up in a Deloitte has more agents than Accenture, and Accenture has more agents than PwC means absolutely nothing.
Zero.
Those agents don't mean a lick if they don't understand your business, your operations, and all of the nuances that exist in your company versus another company. That's my soapbox, and I'm done. Boom.
Well, Matt, I'm just waiting for Gartner to publish a Magic Quadrant on people's favorite ice creams now.
Say that.
You mentioned lick, and so it just made me think of
there is
an ice cream in Q.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's so funny. And it's funny because I was looking at it, and they had I don't know, I'm going to say there were about 15 organizations that were on there, maybe a little bit less. And about 2/3 of them, or about 1/3 of those companies that were listed didn't even fill out their own questionnaires. Gartner filled them out on their behalf. So it's like, how can you rank this company as lower left when they didn't even fill out the questionnaire, right? It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
But you guys know it. I mean, all the touch points that a consulting firm has into an enterprise, it's almost disingenuous to try and rank these folks as far as their capabilities go across AI. Yeah. And any analyst who says, that positions differently has clearly never worked either as an actual, never mind selling services, actually doing the services, or has never been an enterprise IT organization that has actually consumed the services.
Yeah, there are just too many intrinsics, right? X factors, whatever you want to call them, that you can't just simply quantify.
No.
From my perspective. And like, Matt, you made an excellent point. It really starts with an intimate understanding of a particular customer's environment, right?
Yeah.
And you brought up the state of the data, right? Structured, unstructured, where does it reside, in motion, at rest? I mean, there's so many factors that go into this, right?
Yeah. Data relevancy. It all goes in, and unless you have a partner you've built that trust with and that understands you that well, it's a kind of a crapshoot who you go with.
Yeah. Good one.
Thanks.
Good topic, buddy. Yeah. Nice way to close things out.
Thank you. All right. So real quickly before we close out for the week, any exciting plans, either work or otherwise, coming up for you guys?
I'm headed to Alaska mid-August with my wife, so we're going to take a week in Anchorage.
Right on.
And looking very forward to that. And when I get back, then I'm just going to be prepping for the second half travel stretch. So I've got a couple international trips coming up, one to Riga, one to London. I'll be at Connected Britain doing a couple of panels. I do that every year. I love that event. I'll be in Riga, and that'll be September. I'll be in Riga, Latvia in October for another Techratory event where I do panel work as well. And then there's a bunch of domestic stuff all in between. So it's about to start back up for me.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a tsunami season?
Yeah, no kidding, right? And
Think
God,
about Alaska. Yeah.
thank goodness. Yeah, there is. And Alaska's been hit by a few tsunamis over the years, but
Yeah.
thank goodness this earthquake in Russia, they called it deep thunder, I believe. So it was very, very deep. And so I was kind of keeping up with things as I have friends that own property in Hawaii. And apparently it was not as significant as people anticipated. So that's all, so relieved to have seen that it was just very, very minimal. So.
How about you, Paul? What you got going on?
Just a lot of, I've got a lot of research I'm doing right now. One particular company have done some really interesting things in terms of changing out the organization and looking deeper into that, what it means for their long-term strategy. So trying to crack that nut.
Cool. What are you doing, Matt? What are you up to? You've been back and forth to Boston. It seems like almost weekly for the last couple of months. So are you going to stay put, or what's
My
going
diva
on?
of a son, yeah, and I'm going back in a few weeks to move him.
Yeah.
He's moving from being a minute away from Fenway Park to being in the middle of the North End, which is Boston's Little Italy, for those not familiar. So, and that in the middle of a transfer for his grad school. So it's just, that's been fun. But yeah, I start up again. VMware Explorer is the end of August. And that begins the kind of the travel stretch for me. It's going to be a lot of travel. It's going to be a lot of fun, but a lot of good stuff going on. And it's going to be a lot to report on. So
Cool.
excited.
Yeah.
We're excited. All right. So listen, we need to close like we start because our lawyers, our team of lawyers at Moor Insights Strategy have warned us that we have to send this disclaimer out. What we talked about, super fun, super exciting. We covered a lot. And it's great. And by the way, Red Sox overtook the Yankees in the standings. I love it. Screw you, Yankees. Go Sox.
My Astros are playing well as well. So,
they're traveling up to Boston to play them soon.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with our lawyers. Our lawyers wanted us to tell you that you need to not take anything we say as financial advice or recommendations. This is for information and entertainment purposes only. So subscribe, whether you like this or not, like and subscribe. And make sure you tune in another week and a half as we do this all over again. And we'll have more earnings to talk about. All right. Thanks, guys, and have a great rest of the week.
You too, buddy.
Yeah. Have a good time.